To the Combined Authorities Housing and Communities Committee. Here we are up in Peterborough, and we'll have people contributing online on different items. Welcome to all of the District Council and other council representatives. Any apologies for absence, Tamar?
Yes. Apologies received from Councillor Denise Laws, substituted by Councillor Samantha Hoy, Councillor Ryan Fuller, substituted by Councillor John Nish, and Councillor Alison Whelan, substituted by Councillor Lucy Nessinger, and Councillor John Batchelor.
Thank you. I then move on to the minutes, which we've got and which have been circulated. Were there any points of accuracy or follow-up on the minutes? The minutes of our meeting back on the 10th of January. I'm not seeing any. So am I okay to, I'll therefore judge it okay to sign those minutes. In terms of public questions, we have none. So I then move on to item 2.1. So that's the update by Roger Thompson, the Director of Housing. Thank you.
Right, apologies, I'm hitting a green button that isn't the green button. All right, there's a reference to starting a video, I think. Are we good to go, Tamar? Great, okay. So this is the update paper for the Affordable Housing Programme. This paper comes to every housing committee and therefore hopefully people are generally familiar with the format of the report, etc. In this report, within the appendices, we've included the programme of schemes that started for the period to 31st March 2021, the programme of schemes that are in the programme or have fallen out of the programme for 21-22. We provided a simple location plan, which is a supplemental to the location plan for the schemes that we provided at the last committee. This location plan is showing the schemes for the current year, 21-22. Last month we gave you a detailed location plan for all the schemes in the previous programme to 31st March 21. And also because we're aware that we're coming towards the end of the programme, we've given you Asma's put together a simple slide pack, which is a snapshot of some of the schemes that have been initiated and delivered in the different district council areas. Please be aware that is not comprehensive. It isn't every scheme, but it just gives a sense of the flavour of the sorts of schemes that the committee have approved and have been started or are about to start across the combined authority area. And indeed, we've managed to deliver schemes across the combined authority area. Just looking at our numbers, which is where we're projecting we're going to be at midnight on the 31st of March, we're expecting to be at 1,572 units across the whole programme. The build-up to that number is 1,517 will have been delivered through the provision and allocation of grant, and 55 of the affordable units will have been delivered through the loan book. The loan book, in addition, had a large number, I think it was about 169 of market units that were also delivered as a result of schemes for loan book. But of course, with our recording in terms of the efficiency of the programme and with DLUHC, the interest in the delivery of market units isn't really part of our assessment criteria. So that is how we are looking. Under section 2.15, you'll see that there's a commentary on the 6 schemes that when we were preparing the report had not yet technically been able to start on site. We're confident, subject to the approval today on one of those schemes, that the other 5 schemes will be starting on site. They are at various stages of progress, whether that's primary works having been started on site, letters of intent having been issued, contracts being awarded, infrastructure works already ongoing, for example, in the case of Northminster, the asbestos removal we know has been completed, and we're anticipating the start on site there, I think, on the 14th of March. So our confidence around the start on site on those schemes is good and high. In terms of who's delivering those schemes, 4 of those schemes are being started and delivered with Cross Keys Homes. 1 is with the Peterborough Investment Partnership, and 1, subject to approval today, is with Sage, which is a replacement for a previous provider who hasn't been able to proceed with a scheme at March, and there's a dedicated paper on that later in the committee. In terms of prospects beyond March 2022, we've made reference in the report to the fact that there'll be some workshops. They're in the process of being arranged at the moment. Housing committee members and board members will be invited to the second of those workshops. The first workshop is intended to be largely an officer and partner organisation workshop to tease out of them what they might view and how they might want the CPCA to operate in the housing arena. In the forward plan, there's an objective to have a paper coming to the board meeting on the 1st of June. So you should be getting some diary dates, hopefully, in the next few days, about trying to find some time, probably in the first 2 weeks of April, for committee and leaders around that. So I think I'm probably going to wrap there and take questions, which I'm sure there probably will be around the programme.
Thank you, Roger. So I think in particular, well, there's 2 threads for my mind. One is the overall, which is Roger said is a total of 1,572 units subject to the delivery that's referred to in this report. And that constitutes, I think, around, was it 26 million on direct funding that's available, and then a bit over 34 million via the loan book coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of the amount of money that we're using in the programme, it's 60.9 million, which is being used to deliver the programme. Of course, within that, Lewis, you're quite right, we have the loan book monies. The current status of the loan book monies, I think in the schedule in Appendix 1 it was showing as being 36 million, but we've had a few sales receipts coming in on some of the loans. It's about 34 million now. So Lewis, you're absolutely right, there's 34 million outstanding on the loan book. And the rest of the money, obviously, we've already got or are using in the form of grant.
Yeah. So we're going to cover that part in the next item. We'll also cover the Wisbeach Road scheme in particular. I have to repeat my, I hadn't clocked the Cross Keys dimension, but I have to declare an interest in that my partner is a director of and sits on the board of Cross Key Homes. So I don't know if others have got any questions, but what really matters is the schemes that are in Para 215. So we've got that Wisbeach scheme, Wisbeach Road March scheme, which is referred to in a further report on the agenda, but it's these 5 schemes, including Northminster. Could you update us on Northminster, because clearly that is an important one. Not that all of them aren't, but there's 12 or 13 million pounds grant related to that. Yeah.
So the Northminster grant is I think just over 12.5 million pounds. I say the latest information that we had from Peterborough Investment Partnership was that the asbestos strip was done. There was some very initial sort of works, I think, with hoardings and bits and pieces starting to happen on site, but we're advised that the full start, and we'll be advising DLUHC of that, should be on the 14th or possibly the 15th of March.
Yeah. Okay.
If that's so correct in terms of the information from our representative in Peterborough. If that's any different, please let me know.
So, Councillor Allen. It
has been a challenging kickstart, but I believe on site, as you say, on the 15th of March. And the market traders are now on the way out, and time to get digging, as they say.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. Councillor Ambrose Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Roger, the stand ground project scheme, did it get approval on March the 7th? I'm sure you would have said something. But,
Actually, I don't know if Asma's on the line. She may have the latest on that. I haven't actually had confirmation of that as I sit here at the moment.
Are you there, Asma?
Yes, I am here. Hello.
You might need to speak up a little bit.
Sorry, I've spoken to Gary Norman yesterday. He was still expecting to hear from the planners on stand ground at this moment in time. He actually told me he wasn't aware of it just yet.
You'll have to say that again. Sorry, the sound is really poor, Asma.
I think the message is it hasn't been confirmed, and we'll chase it up to make sure it has been confirmed and let you know, Councillor.
If you could
Roger.
will this not hold up the end of March on site?
Assuming there's no significant delay, it won't. But well, I mean significant, I mean, if the delay is a week or two, yes, then it might do. So we will chase that up. We were hoping and expecting that was going to be resolved on Monday, but if it's not, we will, as I say, we will go into pursuit of that. Yeah.
Do you want to come back, David?
I know it's obviously now too late to get a replacement for that. So we're where we are, aren't we? But it's disappointing that of that 6, there's one of those 6 which is are on the cusp of not making the mark, really.
I think Cross Keys were very confident of resolving it because they've already issued a letter of intent to the contractor. So they'll have to rescind that if that hasn't been resolved, which clearly isn't a definitive answer, but we will chase up. We will come back and confirm to you, Councillor, in the next 24 hours exactly what the situation is with that.
Thanks, David. John Nish.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose my concern is in the 215 on all of them, really, isn't it? As to where, how much of a risk are we with those, and what exactly is the position of, is it a shovel in the ground, a spade in the ground, or a brick on the floor type of thing? Because I'm acutely aware. In fact, I did pass it on the way here just to check that like the one at Needingworth, there hasn't been anybody on site there since probably a year. We're just hoping, of course, and the same. I'm not sure where we are with the Stilton one, that they will happen in time, because what we don't want to do is obviously lose that. And I don't know how tight we are on the literal position that we are, knowing that we now got the planning permission for them, which was a bit of a struggle, as you know.
Yeah. So the definition of starts on site, obviously, it's if there's a physical start, that's clearly the start on site, but it's also, it doesn't necessarily have to have a physical start, as long as the main contractor or significant contract is instructed for the initiation of the development, then that can count as a start on site. So actually, the main contract may start, maybe they need to wind up their prelims and all the rest of it, and the actual physical start might not start for a month or two afterwards, but so long as that main contract is placed, it is committed by the party that's receiving our grant, that the contractor's got the contract and he's initiating the job. That is the trigger. So there might be a couple where if you drive around on midnight the 31st of March, there isn't a guy there with a digger or the hoarding up. That might be the case. Yeah.
So it is possible to meet the DLUC requirements on the basis of major contracts being let. Okay. But we are as close to the wire as we will be, and so we are there. So there's still a significant number of millions to be committed, but it's not unusual that these problems push to the boundary. Councillor Nethsinger.
I just wanted to check that I have quite a lot of questions about the loans, but do you want to take that all in the next item and not this one?
If we take that as the next item.
There's some information in this paper, kind of 3.4, 3.5, but I'm happy to take it as the next item.
If you want to take any information out of this item, then we can cover that under 2.2.
Lovely.
Okay. Okay, so the recommendation is to note the progress and obviously to wish the final efforts of the next 2 weeks well. Councillor Ambrose Smith.
Yeah, Roger alluded to the April committee and workshops going ahead. When will we start to receive information on that? It is quite important if we're going to have any influence at all on the way forward and not just being a ticking box.
Yes, so as I said, there's sort of discussions going on now about trying to identify some dates and the format for those workshops. That date should be out this week, and there'll be some subsequent paperwork that will follow, but may act as a little bit of a teaser, if you like, to get people in the mood for the workshop when it arrives. But we're looking to do the officer workshop first as well. So the officer workshop we're looking to do later this month. So there will no doubt be some information from that, actually, that we'll also want to cascade into the committee members and leaders workshop, because I think you'd like to know probably what the officer workshop was saying, what sort of outputs were there. So there may well be a couple of bits of information that will cascade through to you, yeah. Sure.
So what you've got going to the board on March the 30th will be no more than what we've just said here, effectively.
The paper is going to the board in the full plan on the 1st of June, so there's no paper going to the board about the future sort of strategy around housing for the CPCA on the 30th of March.
I've misread the forward agenda for the board, which actually says on the 30th of March you'll be discussing, a paper will be discussing this.
There's a paper on the CPCA's own accommodation requirements. The forward plan was, I think, changed. I'm not quite sure which version you're seeing. I need to check that the forward plan was changed correctly, but the forward plan should be showing a paper on the 1st of June and not on the 30th of March.
On the 1st of June, it just says no recommendations currently being put forward from the Housing Committee.
Right, okay. Well, I will go back with the corporate governance team and just check that our schedules with forward planning are showing the correct information.
You can appreciate, hopefully, this, where I'm getting my information from, so hopefully to help.
No, absolutely. If it's showing the wrong information, that is clearly needs to be changed and updated. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So there's no rushing of this. There'll be, as the meeting pattern that Roger's mentioned, which is a meeting both of the leaders and of the members of the Housing Committee to be arranged. And the target is that date that Roger mentioned, the 1st of June, to a report to the board. There'll be another online involvement, is my proposal, of the Housing Committee when there's a draft set of proposals. So you be part of that meeting in April, but we'll have there will be a loop back into the Housing Committee, but it will be online because we're proposing to defer the April meeting because there isn't sufficient business currently, but we will have further involvement of the committee before the strategy goes to the board.
Understand, and thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a very important point, because we do need to, now that we are getting to the end of what has been a hard amount of work by the housing team, be looking at quite a different geography. If I can take it that report is approved, I in my haste passed over the action log, but I couldn't see anything that was pressing. But if people want to have a look at the action log, please do. And if we could move on to report on agenda item 2.2, I think we've got Mr. Sweeney coming in.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The purpose
if you can speak up, Nick, sorry, our sound from the coming from the tech isn't very good this morning. Hopefully ours is better going your way.
It's very good this way. I'll speak up and try my best. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to update committee on the status of loan repayments that are required to fund the 2021-22 Affordable Housing Programme. The Combined Authority committed a total of £51.167 million through 5 loans to development companies to fund delivery of 54 affordable units. A table summarising the loans is shown at paragraph 2.6 of the report, and I shall provide a brief update of each loan as follows. £6.5 million was loaned to East Cambridgeshire Trading Company to fund delivery of 19 affordable units at West End Gardens in Haddenham. There are no anticipated problems associated with this scheme, and the loan should be repaid by the redemption date. A loan of £4.84 million was loaned to Lara Developments to fund delivery of 4 affordable units at their scheme at 4 Hill, Ely. In January 2022, the Combined Authorities Board agreed a further 3-month extension to the loan due to the impact of the COVID pandemic. The scheme consists of 21 market units. At 28th of February, 13 units were exchanged, 7 were reserved, and 1 agreed sale had fallen through, so the loan is expected to be repaid on time. I can advise that the redemption date of this loan is only 9 weeks away, so the project is being closely monitored by officers conducting routine inspections. £4.78 million was loaned to Lara Developments to fund delivery of 5 affordable homes at Linton Road in Great Abington. This loan was repaid earlier than the redemption date of May 2022. £9.647 million was loaned to Lara Developments to fund delivery of 10 affordable homes at their Histon Road scheme in Cambridge. This loan is expected to be repaid by March 2023 in advance of the loan repayment date. The largest loan of £24.4 million was made to East Cams Trading Company Limited to refurbish 92 former MOD homes in Ely for use as private homes, including delivery of 15 affordable units that are proposed to transfer to a community land trust. On the 28th of February, the balance of the loan was £21,522,510. The most recent monitoring report advises that the cash flow is £2 million behind forecast. There is a high probability that the forecast cash flow will not be achieved, and repayment by March 2023 is considered to be at risk. Officers were informed that £410,000 has been removed from the construction project to reflect that some units are now to be sold as seen to accelerate the cash flow. Additional options available to the borrower include refinancing, portfolio transfer, accelerating volume of sales with a block investment sale, or utilising company reserves to clear the balance. Members are advised that the borrower has until the 31st of March 2023 to repay the loan, and no direct intervention can be taken by the Combined Authority unless default occurs on the 31st of March 2023. East Cams Trading Company have been asked to confirm they are considering further contingency measures and what these might be. Officers shall continue to monitor the situation and provide update reports to Housing Committee. Now, this concludes my presentation, Chairman, but I would add that I've got Mr. Ian Pantling here for assistance from the Finance Department in case there are any technical finance questions that I'm unable to answer. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. So we've got Nick and also Ian from Finance. You indicated, Lucy, Councillor Nessinger, that you wanted to raise a few points.
Thank you. Yes, I think there are quite a lot of elements of concern and have been for some time about these loans, and I think that report back, particularly the final one on the East Cams situation, with what is a really substantial, I mean, £24 million is a lot of money for us to be concerned about whether it's going to be repaid on time. And given that that money was given to the Combined Authority for the building of affordable houses and is currently locked up in a scheme where it's not really delivering very many affordable houses, I think we need to take it very seriously if that loan is not going to be repaid on time. So I suppose I've got a couple of questions, really. The first is, what is the Combined Authority, what action are you taking? I mean, as a as an institution with a large debt, which we have concerns about how it's going to be repaid, what actions are we taking to be talking to East Cambs Development Corporation about that repayment, and are they being open and communicative with us about their intent, kind of the way in which they're hoping to repay that money? So that's my first question.
Thank you, Councillor Nessinger. I can confirm that, as I stated in the report, we are unable to actually take any direct contractual intervention unless they default on the loan by 31st of March 2023. But I can advise that we are monitoring the situation. We do receive regular monitoring reports. And we also have written, or the Director of Housing and Development has written to the Managing Director of East Cambs Trading Company Limited, just to inquire as to what further contingency measures they are considering. And we hope to be in a position to report back to committee at a future date. As I alluded to in my presentation, there are some remedies available which they can consider. So although the construction may be behind and the sales may be behind on the cash flow perspective, there are other solutions that they can consider to ensure that the loan is repaid and that our programme is not affected.
Roger Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Nessinger, just to sort of embellish a little bit what Nick was saying, we have written to ECTC requesting information about what their contingency plan is in the event that the plan that everyone aspires to, i.e. the sale of the units to repay the loan, they don't find themselves in a position where they resell enough of the units to fully repay the loan. We've also written as an escalation of that to the board of ECTC, requesting that same information, and we understand that there is a plan afoot upon which we will be advised more in the next month or two on what their contingency planning is, and I would imagine it may well be around some element of refinancing being put into place in the event that they don't sell all the houses in time for March 2023. So there is a dialogue that's ongoing with our borrower. We continue to watch very closely what is going on. We watch the performance of the cash flow certainly month by month, in a way week by week, against what they have, the latest information that they've given us. I suppose the good news is that in the last 2 or 3 weeks we've actually seen quite a pickup of sales. So they have a number of sales that they have agreed and seem to be in the legal process around contract. And I can't remember the exact number, but we've certainly seen 4 or so sales come through in the last couple of weeks. And this is what we need to see. We need to see steady progression of these sales churning through the process in terms of getting mortgage offers and getting the conveyancing resolved and getting these sales coming through. And certainly the worry that we had up until the last few weeks is that we weren't seeing enough sales sort of coming through. Now we're starting to see some of that. Can that be maintained? That will sort of get them to where they need to be in 13 months' time. Yeah, let's hope so. But they do have a significant number of sales. I think it's in Nick's report in terms of the number of units they've got under offer, and they are trying to push clearly the marketing of the remaining market units that aren't yet under offer.
Councillor Nessinger.
Thank you. It's good to know that that dialogue is going on and that the sales are coming in. I think it is important to be clear that for every £1 million that's out there on loan, we are not able to build affordable houses, and they are urgently needed in our area. So it is important that we get these loans back in quickly. I'm just also wondering, I mean, has this been referred to the Combined Authorities Audit Committee in the past, and is that something that we ought to be considering?
Well, I think there's the chief executive's involved, and there's a big focus on it. So I think there hasn't been a formal report to the board yet, no. But I think we are in need of a response from East Cams in terms of what will happen, because if you look on page 40, we've got a profile of payments, which is quite a critical amount, a set of amounts in that column, and the timing of those is important, isn't it, Roger, in terms of funding for affordable schemes?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Let's get my mic right. Yes, it is, although, I mean, Ian Pantling's on the call. If we find ourselves in a situation where we have more grant application coming in than the loan money being received by us, that doesn't mean that everything grinds to a halt and suddenly the houses stop being built. Having talked with Ian and the finance team, and Ian may well be able to pick up any particular comment on this, there's enough capacity in the CPCA financing for effectively other money that the CPCA has in account to, you might sort of say, almost act as a bridging entity to ensure that the money continues to flow around the housing scheme, the housing programme. So bridging may be the wrong word, but there's a lot of money that the CPCA holds in cash. So the problem is not the CPCA not having enough cash to make the payments. But Ian can talk. I mean, I'm not a finance person, so I might be misrepresenting that in a way, but the information I got is that we will not be withholding payments for the grant programme if there's any sort of limited slippage to the loan programme.
Councillor Nessinger, and then I'll bring in Councillor Allen.
Can I just, I am worried about a situation where we're saying we're going to be using other CPCA money to take forward the grant programme because we're not getting money back on our loans. I mean, I hope I'm wrong about this, but my fear is that what that looks like is that actually the CPCA is subsidising the East Cams Development Corporation and Lara Homes with these loans while we're using our own money to do other things. And that's really not an acceptable situation. And I think we need to be really clear about that.
Yeah, no, I think we should aim to manage the housing money within its overall. Councillor Allen, and then I'll bring in Councillor Ambrose Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and excuse my naivety, but looking at this, loan amount 24 million for 15 units, one below is a loan of 6.5 million for 19 units. On that basis, are we perhaps subsidising East Cams for the construction of the remaining market units? Is that how it's working? It doesn't seem right somehow. So how does this scheme work?
Well, I'm not sure we're going to have the time today to dig back into all of the history, but effectively the loans were agreed by the combined authority, largely the board. So there was obviously an element of affordable housing in it, but the toolkit that was developed under during that period on housing and on the board supported these loans, and overall there is an output from them, but it's just the issue for us now, Councillor Allen, is we have to fund the new affordable housing from the loans returning, because the government said that that was the first source of money that we should use for the Northminster and for the other projects. And they severely restricted us in the additional funding that we received. So we've got about £60 million of funding when originally we were committed. We had a government commitment for 100 million. But I hope that helps. But
slightly, but okay,
yeah,
we are where we are. I think.
Yeah, I think that is the other way of saying it. Yeah, Councillor Ambrose Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we are where we are. I've just had some updates, and so has Roger on this. 55 of the houses or units have actually been sold or in the legal process of actually exchanging contracts and so forth. That brings forward some £12.4 million into our coffers in a very, very near future. It is just a legal contract of getting the...
Near the mic, sorry.
It's just, yeah, you're right. It is just the legal side which is taking its time, and I can certainly vouch for that. I've been trying to sell a house myself for since October with no chain, and I'm still waiting to get the sale through with no chain. Regarding, so I don't see that at the moment, from the figures I've got, I don't see that, and the same as Roger's got, I don't see that will be a problem on meeting that 2023 March deadline. I don't see any problems on that. Looking at the money going back into the affordable pot, well, that's very good. But since Lucy mentioned this, Cambridge City had £70 million for 156 housings, and they didn't actually...
540.
546, that's right, well done. 546, but that didn't... yes, I've got that wrong, didn't I? But I'm pleased with that. They did very well in getting that done, but it didn't bring any more affordable houses in other than that. So it's quid pro quo for those two, I believe. So in short, from the figures I have and the figures Roger has, only just delivered, I'm afraid, though, Roger. Is that right? Only just delivered that 55 houses are sold and bringing in over £12.4 million in our coffers very shortly.
I mean, what is clearly occurring is a detailed discussion between the Combined Authority in East Cambridgeshire and effectively, as I understand it, the loan obligation, unless Nick or others correct me, has to be repaid because that is the contract. So it's over if there's a risk for East Cambridgeshire to refinance. So that's how I understand it. The other part of that is that we clearly did with East Cambridgeshire and Larag do the profiling on page 40, and that, whilst it's not contractual, and again with the benefit of hindsight it would have been better, that is quite a significant indicator about whether or not things are on track, and at the moment they're not on track, and I'm with Councillor Nessinger that I don't think we should have an open agenda of trying to keep this going using broader funds, because we are the Housing Committee and we are managing the money for housing. Councillor Nish?
I'm on. I think it's just, we look at it, and I think if we were to look at it now, we'd probably have a different idea. We tried to do something differently from what I recollect. It might work. I think the way I look at it is that there's concern there, but not overly concerned, because there is still that profile of being able to repay within that time. And I think, as was been pointed out here, is that we just need to keep a careful eye on it to ensure that that profile is still there and that the dialogue continues. From my perspective, it's not uncomfortable, but it's not the most comfortable of places to be in.
Well, we will, as part of the housing strategy, review what our frequency and form of meetings are. It may be that housing is combined with another activity, but we do need to ensure that there is regular 2-monthly review of this. Anything to add? Councillor Nessinger, and then I'll bring Roger Thompson.
I think the thing that's absolutely necessary is to make it absolutely clear what the impact of any delay is on other schemes, what the impact on the Combined Authority's overall budget is. We just need absolutely transparent accounting about a lot of this stuff, and I worry that it hasn't been quite as clear as it should be in the past. Maybe I'm just not aware of exactly what the schemes were and how it was supposed to work, but I think if there is to be any use of other money, it needs to be completely clear what the impact of that is on other things that might otherwise be happening, and I therefore have big reservations about it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd ask Roger if we could have an update in May to the committee, even if we're not meeting, so that all of the current members, albeit that we've got some elections and stuff, but Roger, I just think we will aim to be, Councillor Nessinger, and officers will. The issue is that this is a commercial loan arrangement as well, and so some of the discussions which will be reported do need to be dealt with, and then we'll be in a position to achieve the transparency which I fully support, along with others on this committee.
So very happy to maintain the transparency. Certainly we'll be responding to committee members when we get a clear indication from ECTC about what contingency planning they are putting into place. I fully appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Smith, and absolutely hope you're right. But also being sort of prudent officers, we need to sort of use in our own judgment, listen to what the monitor is saying, and don't put all of our eggs in one basket, let's just say. The final point I'll just make is that around the loans and our security, we do hold security on the loans in the form of the legal charges over the properties until they're sold. So we do have security there around the amount of the loans that is outstanding. And I just remind committee members of that in case we're all sitting there feeling very nervous. We have security.
Councillor Ambrose-Smith.
If I may, Chair, thank you for that, Roger. But I think that is a problem. We are continually having substitutes at the meeting, so we don't always have that knowledge. They don't always have that knowledge and background that some of us have here, even though they may forget some numbers. Councillor Singer.
Well, we'll be coming back to this, and I have also been clear that I want finance involved in monitoring as well, because it is one of the bigger risks to the combined authority currently. So the recommendation on page 35 is to note the position, but as I said, we will have a 2-monthly update as a minimum, and in whatever form that takes. People in agreement with that? Thank you. And then we move to item 2.3. I think asthma is... Thank you, Nick. Asma, are you going to introduce this?
Yes, I've put a headset on. I'm hoping you'll hear me fine.
That's better.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you, Chair. I'll start off now. I'm looking at Wisbeach Road March for a grant uplift on this project. This site originally came to us in November 2019. It was presented by Funding Affordable Homes and has since received planning, and a GFA was agreed. We found out in December of last year Funding Affordable Homes could no longer provide the funds to start the project. However, they had a construction company called Partner Constructions who decided to take the project on as it was released by Funding Affordable Homes. They presented to Sage Housing and United Living. We had discussions with Sage and they said they would take the project on. They also were hoping to commit to 100% affordable housing on this site. However, on the grant that was previously agreed in November 2019, which was 4.5 million, it wasn't financially viable. After some calculations, they came back asking for a grant requirement of 5,248,700. This is an uplift of 706,700. There will be a slight change in the tenure mix. It's going to be 64 to 36. 64% of the affordables rented will be 76 units. 36% of the shared ownership units, that makes 42. There still will be a total number of 118 units on the site. As I've said, construction company is on board, which is Partner Constructions. Site has planning and the site will be in Sage's possession as we speak. They are looking at ensuring that the rents will be capped at local housing allowance rates for the rented affordable units, and the first tranche of shared ownership will be sold at 42%. They're hoping to start on site by 15th of March 2022 with the contracts of works agreed. DLUC have agreed to the site uplift in principle pending today's decision from Housing Committee. The average grant rate on each unit is 44.48k per unit. Thank you.
Thanks, Asma. Any questions on the scheme? So effectively, the original housing association has pulled out, and we now have an offer and a clear proposal subject to the amended finances from Sage Housing, another registered housing association for 76 affordable rent units and homes and 42 shared ownership homes. Any questions people want to raise? Councillor Nessing.
Just one. Mostly, I think, sorry, this is not really it's just a question about a scheme which is entirely affordable housing, which I think is something that, on the whole, we've had reservations about having large places which are entirely affordable. I suspect it's probably too late to change that for this scheme, or have I misunderstood and there is a lot of other housing going on the site and in the area that is not affordable?
Well, I think, Asma, do you want to come in? I mean, I think it benefits from the fact that there's the shared ownership is quite a different mix, and it may then lead to outright sales. Asma, do you want to come in on that?
Yes, yes, Councillor, thank you. Yeah, with regards to the change, initially the site was going to have 98 affordable rents and 20 shared ownership. Sage thought that was not ideal, and therefore have just changed the mix to make it a bit more balanced, a bit more of a mixed area as well. So there will be shared ownership and affordable rent. But I believe Wisbeach Road March has other developments going on as well. This is just one of the bigger ones that we have tried to support Fenlands District Council in trying to pursue.
Any more?
That's really helpful, thank you. It is helpful to know that there are other developments going on there as well. That's an important part of this. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it is meeting both affordable housing need, but has an element of variety and connectivity with the rest of the community. So,
I'm really pleased that we've got so many affordable rent houses being built. I'm just wary about building places where we end up with a place which is very dominated by one particular tenure type, which I think is not necessarily desirable in the long term. So I hope that's a helpful explanation.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Hay.
Thank you. No, I just want to say, obviously, I'm very supportive of this. Our housing list, as everyone's is massive at the moment, so we do desperately need this scheme in Fenland. And also, I think I'm really pleased to see the mix of tenure as well, because we've had very few of these shared ownership schemes in Fenland, but every ones that we have sort of almost gone off plan. So they are very popular. So I'm pleased to see that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is a real addition to March. Can I see those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. So our last item, and that's the report on Cambridge North East. Thank you, Asma. So I think we've got Fiona Bryant, is it, on the call? So if you log in, Fiona, you will take over, and Asma will go smaller.
Yes, I am here. I can't, Councillor Herbert, thank you. I can't actually stop my video at the moment. It doesn't. Oh,
there we are. We can see and hear you.
That's very good. Thank you very much. And thank you to the committee for allowing me the opportunity to update you on the North East Cambridge programme. I hope the paper is fairly self-explanatory. As you will be aware, generally this is a large 250-acre site right across the North East Cambridge, south of the A14, broadly encompassing the Science Park, St John's Innovation Park, Cambridge Business Park, the core site as we call it, jointly owned by Cambridge City and Anglian Water, and Cambridge Regional College. The intention, as proposed in the emerging local plan, is to bring it forward for as a preferred site, as it is a very sustainable site, being based near to Cambridge North Station on the guided busway, etc., for around or just under 8,500 homes. Whilst commercial development can occur in a restricted way, at the moment residential development in that space is very restricted, owing to the odour zone, which covers the current Anglian Water wastewater treatment plant, and therefore major development across that area will be enabled by the relocation of the wastewater treatment plant. At the moment, the three projects that really are most closely related to the North East Cambridge development are obviously the Emerging Local Plan and the North East Area Action Plan and the wastewater plant relocation project. Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service has developed the North East Area Action Plan, and that has been approved by both South Cambs and Cambridge City Councils through to Regulation 19 draft, which is the draft that will eventually be submitted for inspection and adoption. At this stage in time, it has to pause because of the process which requires it to be proven through inspection as deliverable, and that requires the development consent order, which forms the planning framework for the wastewater treatment plant relocation, to actually be submitted and determined. The paper mentioned the last statutory consultation for that DCO process was due to be launched. It was indeed launched on February the 24th by Anglian Water, and that includes the details of the proposed design for the new wastewater treatment plant and further details about the transition planning and the programme. And that is out for consultation until the end of April. The core site, which is 48 hectares in the middle, at the heart of the North East Cambridge whole area, as I say, is jointly owned by Anglian Water and by Cambridge City Council, and that is the development of that is being governed by a joint venture between those two organisations. We have appointed through ODU U&I as a master developer, who have since last year been overtaken by Land Securities, and therefore, because of the planning frameworks having to come forward to certain time periods first, the focus has not been on the actual development project until recently, and we are now in the very early stages of that, and you will be aware, as the paper lays out, of an early launch which occurred last weekend, no, 2 weekends ago, including 4 webinars and a number of leaflets being sent out, and there will be some pop-up events. We were hoping this would be face-to-face, but obviously COVID ongoing concerns restricted that. Effectively, the focus has therefore been on communications and engagement at that early stage, including a number of bilateral meetings and, as I say, the early launch. The other work that's been going on is development of the master plan in line with the programme period, and as you will see, this is a long-term project, and we are not expecting to be able to occupy any housing that's developed either on the core site or indeed on the surrounding sites until 2028, which will be effectively, if the DCO achieves planning permission for the relocation, will be when that is completed and the land under the current plant is decommissioned. We are currently also obviously very heavily engaged in the transport and planning process, and I think transport is critical to this because the intention for all those parties concerned is that this should be a very low carbon and transport neutral development right across the North East Cambridge area, and therefore the landowners have come together to develop with county to develop a transport strategy. There are some ongoing concerns about the modelling, the timing of the modelling and the figures that have gone into that. But we are still working on that, and we certainly hope to bring that to a conclusion. Clearly, the local transport plan too, and the ongoing work to look at network hierarchies in the bus plan is critical to that, and it remains quite a high risk for the project. Aside from those things, I hope you found the report interesting. We have a long way to go. It is very early stages, but we are absolutely committed to engaging as many people as possible in the development, and I commend the report for the committee's noting.
Thank you, Fiona. So this is reported because the combined authority was involved with the city in securing the Housing Infrastructure Fund back in 2017 or 18?
Yes. 2017.
2017. And as Fiona has amply described, it is a long project, given that it's a major relocation of a wastewater plant. Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Fiona, and for keeping the Combined Authority in touch with it, and all of the work that you've done so much to lead. So only another 6 to 16 years to go. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so the recommendation is that we note the update and thank Fiona for that. Accepted? Agreed? Okay. All right, appreciate that. I think we've got an item in terms of an agenda plan. So at the moment, if we look at pages 55, do you want to say anything, Tamar? On to 56, basically.
What you said about the April meeting being deferred.
Well, if there's a value in us meeting, then we may. I think we should keep it in the diary, and then just judge whether or not it merits us coming to a central place. So we are going to have. Probably a little before then, but around that time, the discussion about the future housing strategy, and effectively, there's a segue into the role of this committee, and then, I just expect that we can keep that in reserve, but it's a long way between now and the 11th of July. So, and the 11th of July, we're probably going to follow up on the report and the plans on the future housing role. So there'll be that as a report. So if members of the committee can keep that in the diaries, it's roughly a month away. It may well be that there's a more logical meeting in May. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well. Right. Well, if we do that, and I'm happy with that, Councillor Ambrose Smith. If we accept that there isn't a known need for that date, but that we reserve the need to maybe call what might be called a special meeting. But the pattern that was set isn't very even. So I appreciate that there are these things called elections, but we may need to have a meeting. We work with a fairly tight quorum rule because which was set in the original founding document of the combined authority of a minimum of 5, which does make these meetings quite a challenge, particularly for Tamar, who has sleepless nights as a result. But I'm really grateful for your attendance. I think we'll take that out, but we will have an informal meeting roughly around then, and we'll reserve one way or another. We can certainly have an online update on where we're at on what's happened to the end of March, and where we're at on the loans in May. Okay? And then if we've got a real business to do, we may have to have a special meeting, but I can't foresee that at the moment. Okay? So thank you for coming to San Martin House, and thank you to the officers for all the work that they put in. And I look forward to seeing you at the discussion that we have about the housing strategy. And I also look forward to coming to Peterborough and at least looking at a spade, if not lifting one, on Northminster. Okay. Thanks for all your contributions. Meeting closed.